Dear friends of the Tom Photo channel and all new viewers, guess what I have in my hand? It's small and light, made of plastic, makes a bit of clicking sound when shaken, and has almost nothing written on it. Is it a toy? That's what I thought when I first saw this Fujinon lens. I could not have been more wrong. At first glance, this lens does not convey trust. Only 135 grams and the lightest zoom lens for the X mount. Doesn't immediately feel like something very high quality that could produce good photos. But the looks can be deceiving. Let me give you a spoiler right away and tell you that what we have here is a wonderful, very practical, really sharp and capable honest Fuji lens. This lens comes with a lot of Fuji cameras as the kit lens. I've heard some people say that the first thing to do is to get rid of this lens and get a proper one instead. The purpose of my video is to convince you otherwise. And depending on what you're trying to do, it could be the best lens for you. I too got rid of this lens when I first got it. But then I started to miss it so much that I bought it again. Throughout this video, I'm showing you sample images taken with this lens attached to my Fuji X-T10. This is my last summer holiday trip to beautiful northern Poland. I guess you're starting to get my drift. If I shot my entire summer holiday with this lens, it has to be special in some way. And right you are. I had to do a lot of hiking and walking, and I had other things to carry besides the camera. When looking at my available lenses before the trip, only this tiny guy seemed attractive to me. It made my camera so unnoticeable that it felt more like a keychain than a camera. It never slowed me down, I never regretted. It offers very nice focal length range. The 15mm wide angle is really wide and will work so nicely in narrow streets or small rooms. The other end of 45 is pretty okay for distant objects and portraits. Sure, I'd like to see it go to 55mm instead, but that would probably lead to much larger size and higher price. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to me on a hike that my camera gear is small. The lens extends in and out in a collapsed form. It's just barely over 4 centimeters long. Read about this lens, and what people agree on is that it's very sharp. Compared to another cheaper option, the XC 16 to 50mm, it is much smaller and also sharper. It's almost jaw-droppingly sharp. I don't know if that's actually a word, considering its looks and size. Some people say that it has a great center sharpness, but not so much in the corners. I don't think this is a fully correct statement. Let me explain where I think they got it wrong. Here's a drawing of the lens, the sensor, and the tiny bug the photographer is focusing on. Let's say that there are 2 tiny bugs, and the camera is focused on the right one. The photographer looks at the picture and says that the right bug at the center is sharp, but the one near the edge is not, and thus the lens is no good. Let's calculate the distances from each bug to the sensor. The center bug is 10 centimeters. The other one is 11.2 centimeters from the sensor. This is over 11% difference. How could the other bug be sharp? It's obvious that when you get very close to the object with a wide angle, the relative distances of different objects are very large. If they had done the same experiment with a tree 100 meters away, then the relative distance differences between the trees would have been much less. In this particular example, just over 0.1%. So when someone talks about center sharpness, it matters greatly how the experiment was conducted. I have compared Fuji kit lenses in another video. The link is below that describes how I do it. I also determined the sweet spot of this lens. Briefly, here it is again. I was about 1.5 meters away from the subject here. This affects the steepness of the sharpness versus f-stop graph, but not the overall shape. Interestingly, the sweet spot of this lens is quite uniformly around f-stop 8 at every focal length tested. And you cannot compare the absolute sharpness values across different focal lengths, because the image was not exactly the same at different focal lengths. You need to look at the trends one focal length at a time. Let's look at the lens up close too. The lens extends in and out every time you turn on and off the camera. Even when you press the replay button, it does that. This all takes time and uses battery power. Well, I understand, however, why this is needed. The primary goal of this lens is to be small when not in use. It has aperture range of 3.5 to 5.6. The filter size is 52 millimeters. The lens does not take a hood. The lens connector is made of plastic, so care needs to be taken when changing this lens. It has no buttons. The aperture is controlled entirely by the body. The lens has a great image stabilization built in. 3 stops, they say. This can also be turned on and off through the body only. The lens has 2 rings. The aperture ring is electronic and turns endlessly in both directions. The zoom ring operates a motor in the lens that changes the focal length for you. 2 different speeds can be chosen. This is one thing I don't particularly like. It makes photography and zooming a bit clumsy, and it doesn't always respond to my turning. I have to turn it several times sometimes, and then I often go too far and I have to turn it back in the other direction. I cannot exactly say that it's a pain to use, but well, okay, it is a bit. You have to pay a price for the small size and sharp images, and the user experience where you pay the price. A relatively small price though. I have yet to see a photographer who would not prefer a normal manual zoom instead. The zoom ring is not marked and you have no idea where you are. Why does the lens even have a motor? Fuji says that it is for smoother zooming during the video. It's quite smooth, but not quite as silent as you'd wish. It makes enough noise to be heard in the video. I've gotten used to the fact that this lens is a bit difficult to operate, and I can live with it. But the lens is so small and produces such nice photos that I forgive it a problem or two if I get these benefits. The inner focusing AF system is quick and relatively silent. There is a stepping motor in the lens to drive this. Of course, wider angle lenses are quicker at focusing in general, and this lens is satisfyingly quick to focus. The time has shown that the Fuji 15 to 45mm is a keeper for me. It's sufficiently different from the rest of my lenses to earn a place in my modest lens collection. I especially recommend it for traveling. This lens is not a toy. It really is a Fuji grade product, and we all know that Fuji does not produce bad lenses. If you like this video, please consider pressing the subscribe button. This means a lot to me. Thanks so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in my future and past videos where I talk about photography related matters. Have a wonderful day.